Hola guys, welcome to another video. So here we'll be focusing on the entire course of econometrics, and the main principle of this is actually understand what is econometrics. Well, the definition suggests that it is the use of statistical methods to analyze economic data. As both the name says, metrics is a mathematical term to do with statistics, and eco is a short abbreviation of economic data. So this is a nice simple definition. Also, what is actually used for typically? So experts in the field typically analyze non-experimental data within econometrics. And there you have it. That's just the two simple definitions. So note this down, and guys, I'll be going quite quickly and breaking as many things as possible. So definitely take as many notes as possible. So this is, of course, fundamental and non-experimental data. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to change pen. Now, typical goals of econometric analysis. Well, these are used to estimate relation between economic variables. So we're going to have a function of multiple variables, or in this case, a regression. And this is used to test economic theories and hypotheses. For example, in a wage equation where you got the number of years and experience, and of course to forecast economic variables. There's one more point which is actually used to evaluate and implement government and business policies. So yeah, so this is going quite deep. You're not only doing a lot of statistics, but you're going into the government field. So evaluating future promises, or at least adapting to existing policies. Now, suppose we consider an economic model. Okay, today we're just going to be working on a typical model that involves job training, worker productivity. I'm going to classify this as the wage equation, which is quite famous actually. It's famous from Becker, 19 so and so. So it's formulated by a previous statistician. And what kind of model exactly? The kind of questions we should always consider in these economic models is what is the effect of additional training and work productivity, and of course the formal economic theory that's not really needed to derive a typical equation. So this equation we're going to be looking at, the typical regression, always takes this form. The standard model where y equals beta 0 plus beta 1 times one explanatory variable plus and so on. So there could be multiple, and the most important one to also consider is the error term. This is usually the determinants of the mistakes using the typical model. For example, since we're dealing with job training and work productivity, even though this should be bold, different color, we should really consider the next part, which is the wage model. So this is adapted to the wage. Now, carefully looking at everything, let's have a look. So wage, which replaces y. So this explains wage in an econometric model. Every single term is used to explain some variable which is linked to the coefficient, which is the betas. And these betas are usually evaluated on eViews or appropriate software for statistical modeling. Education here could suggest the number of years in education, and experience the number of probably work experience one has gathered. And of course, the relevant training, if you had enough training to earn a certain wage. Now this term here, again, like I said, just like I stated here, is pretty much the determinants. So the determinants is simply the other cases. You could think of it as probably someone with a lack of education, or lack of formal education, lack of formal training. Pretty much the additional but not complete. So this is I could say this is probably the 1%, or everybody else. We can't really say a figure, but it's literally everyone else. And generally speaking, if we're taking an average, we just assume that the average of the determinants is safe to assume around 0. So it kind of follows a white noise process. So let me write down here, white noise. That is that this is normally distributed with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of, well, sigma. Okay, let's move on, guys. Now, continuing from this model, this model typically deals, well, most econometrics deals with the specification of the error. So like I stated, the determinants of the error. And econometric models may be used for hypothesis testing. Yep, pretty clear, so prediction and so. For example, the parameter beta 3, so over here, the one that suggests training, represents the effect of training on wage. Okay, and one could ask, how large is this effect? Is it different from 0? Possibly. Now, the final part I'm going to discuss here is the effect of minimum wage on unemployment. For example, by how much, if at all, when unemployment increased, the minimum wage is increased by a certain amount. So yeah, this is a good question to consider, really. So we always do things by unit. So for example, if we had a figure of, I don't know, 2.58, then you could really interpret that as for every unit there has been an increase of 2.05 pounds, or number of workers, or pound or dollars, etc. That has also increased. So this is always proportional. Also, let's consider an experiment. For example, a government randomly chooses minimum wage each year and observes unemployment outcomes. Yep, thank you to the models. And experiment will work because level minimum wage is unrelated to other factors determine unemployment. Yes, this is 99% of agreement. So again, we're just using the model to kind of form some sort of an experiment. At least the government suggests that. So in reality, the level minimum wage will in fact depend on political and economic factors that also influence unemployment. Yep, gotta do my spelling there. And yeah, so this is really just a simple breakdown, so guys. So yeah, this is all I can really say about Introduction to Econometrics. The main idea really was to consider the equation which we looked at earlier and to pretty much work around it. My later videos will go into it more deeply, talk about and probably analyze every single term by term. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this video helped, and I shall see you all down the road, and take care and ciao.